I think a good place to start as any is with 2011, which just ended, and
Okay.
what your overall impression was of the year, and specifically, say, the Mondo Mystery Movie series. How did you feel about how that went from inception to the last show that you guys did this year?
2011 was... So, at the end of... So, this time... Like at the end of... basically the end of 2010, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We were, like... Star Wars had just ended, and that was, like, really crazy. And we were like, oh, okay, well... That's kind of like it. Like, what else can you do with anything? Like, Star Wars is, like... when you're looking at licensed properties, it goes... it's like Star Wars, Disney, and then everything else. Like, nothing even touches it. So we're like, oh, geez, what do we do? And so that I'm really glad that we kind of, came back and showed that it wasn't just Star Wars that was kind of running the ship that year. Like, we did better this year than we did last year with Star Wars. And I think it was because of things like the mystery movie and doing live events and kind of using that popularity with it, got us so many different new people, like, new fans, that we could do stuff with Drew Struzan, and we could do stuff with Shepard Fairey, and these giant legendary guys, like, wanted to work with us. So I think that 2011 was a kind of even, like, it's as much as or more than 2010. 2011 was a breakout year for us in a lot of ways, and especially, like you said, with the mystery movie stuff. Like, that was something that didn't really start out to be like, oh, it's going to be these grand, like, elaborate screenings of stuff. It was more, oh, hey, let's just do a screening and show a movie we want with an artist there that we like, if they can come and do a poster that's only available there. It did, we had when we started it with Akira, it wasn't like, oh, we had no idea that we wanted to do Dawn of the Dead like that. And it just kind of became, okay, let's see how crazy we can make this thing. And then, it kind of went from there.
Which one was the most difficult to put together? Dawn of the Dead?
Dawn of the Dead, for sure. I mean, the three we've had... Well, we did the LA ones, so those were... I mean, anytime it's in a movie theater, for the most part, I will say that up to this point, anything that's been in a movie theater has been fairly easy. I mean, the Phil Tippett thing was fine. I mean, that was just coordinating with him and, coordinating with the studio and getting him in. But then, like, with Dawn of the Dead, it was... You have to coordinate with the casting director. You have to coordinate with the special effects people. You have to coordinate with the Mondo team. You have to coordinate with the Alamo Roadshow. You have to coordinate with the Dawn of the Dead studios. You have to... So it was like...
The cops.
Yeah, the cops, the mall security, the people that run the lights, the firearms guys. Like, it was just... It was really, like, a production of a film. Like, it was that many people, but we... I guess we did film it, but, it's kind of like it was for one big hurrah at the beginning, and then you're watching the movie, and then that's kind of, that was the big reveal. So, well, I mean, like the church and the buses and the convoy of, everyone getting over there and all that stuff. It was just such a production, and I think we learned a lot from that. And if we ever do one that big again, it'll run, it'll run much smoother, I think, because we learned a lot from that. Because I mean, like Mondo, was at a time a t-shirt shop, and now we're doing, theatrical events in the theater and outside, like roadshow style stuff. So it's been a big kind of growing. It's been like there's been some growing pains, but I think we're figuring that stuff out and making it better.
What were some of the unexpected challenges you had during that screening?
The Dawn of the Dead thing?
Yeah.
I think most of it was just kind of the unexpected stuff. Like, I was in the back, and I was in the back with George Romero, and I was looking at my phone, and I was looking at tweets, and people were, like, pissed. They're like, I've been sitting in this bus for half an hour or whatever. And I never really thought that, that would have been that big of a deal. But, like, when you have 700 people waiting to get on buses, like, if you're on the first bus, you have to wait for the other 13 buses to get loaded. So the first person that gets on the bus will have to wait the longest. So if you're in line the first, and you wait the longest, you're going to get on the bus, and you're going to wait the longest, waiting for everyone else to get in the bus. So, I mean, in the future, we'll try to make any kind of well, in the future, most likely we won't have that kind of travel thing together. We never know what we're going to do. Like, we have an idea for the next ones we want to do, but none of them involve, like, travel like that. So that was just, that was just a kind of an unexpected thing that we'll definitely work on the next time. But with George Romero and the zombies and all the makeup and any stuff like that, like all that stuff went well. Like I got really sick afterwards. Like that was a big thing that was unexpected. Like
your ear infection?
Yeah, they got makeup in my ears, and when I went to clean them out, the water stayed in, and so I got these crazy double ear infections, like inner ear infections. And I had planned on taking the week after that off, and then the week after that I was sick with my ears all messed up. So that was probably the biggest unexpected thing, was that happening and having to pay like crazy doctor bills to get it fixed. So other than that, I thought the Dawn of the Dead thing went well, and there were I think the problems were kind of minor, I would say.
Yeah, far outweighed by the stuff that...
Yeah, I don't think there was any major problems. Like, the movie didn't not play, and George Romero didn't cancel, and, like, everyone, the posters were there, and so we did everything we said we were going to. It's basically just refining it for the next time and making it smoother, which I think is totally doable, and we totally will try to do that.
Awesome. Another thing that you guys kind of branched out with this year was the soundtrack for Maniac. How did that come about?
I don't know who brought it up, but we had talked about doing soundtracks or starting a record company after we did the VHS stuff, and that went well. And we're like, well, we like soundtracks to movies, so why don't we try to do that? And well, we actually, when we had Bill Lustig down to the theater, and we showed Vigilante and Maniac, Maniac Cop 2, I believe, and then Maniac. And we were talking to him about stuff we could do, and him and Jay Chataway still owned Maniac. They own it outright, so they had the rights to the soundtrack. And we're like, oh well, we can do we can do a soundtrack to that. We can produce that. And he's like, yeah, sure, whatever you want to do. So we just kind of tried it, and it went went really well. It sold very well, and so now we're working on doing other ones. But it's just such a slow process. It's like posters were in the beginning, where it was like all the studios are like, that's not a thing, we don't want to hear that, and now like it is a thing with studios posters, and so they do realize they can make them money. But it's the same way with like, I'm a guy calling up, it's basically starting from scratch again. You're calling them up saying, hey, we want to do this record, and we want to make 500 records of this horror movie soundtrack that no one cares about. Like the mainstream, it's not going to be on, iTunes. It's not going to be on this thing. It's this movie they probably don't even know they have in their catalog, and so they don't want to. If they don't know they have it, they're not going to have like a licensable program for it. So it's just all this stuff that you have to really talk to them and try to convince them that it is important. We can do well with it, and it's basically. It's no different than anything we've ever done and made work. It's just going to be a more difficult road, I think, with this particular project. But it'll be like with anything difficult. Like the rewards will be great. It'll be really fun to do something with, a soundtrack that no one knows about, but that's like really really solid. Like Assault on Precinct 13, for instance. Like I really really want to put that one out because it's unbelievably good. Mm-hmm. So, but like like most of the Carpenter stuff, but specifically that one, because everyone's heard Halloween, everyone's heard like Big Trouble in Little China and all those things like that. So yeah, I think that one will be one we shoot for this year for sure.